Okay, thank you everybody for getting here so promptly. My name's Elizabeth Coe, for those of you who don't know me, although I've been around for such a long time, I'm sure that most people do. So this is the NACC conference and AGM, and it's based on called Recognising Risk. We've got a number of speakers today from there's Phil Ashwood from the Child Exploitation Unit. There is Mike Curtin from the National Centre for Domestic Violence. We've got James Evans, who's going to tell you about an app that's available for parents to be able to communicate better to each other. There are other apps available, but we thought that James was happy to come and talk to you about this. He's also, his company is also sponsoring the videoing of this conference so that we can put it on our website for those who are unable to attend. And then we've got Michael Lukowitz from Families Need Fathers. And unfortunately, Women's Aid were unable to attend today for unforeseen circumstances, but we have managed to replace Women's Aid with NACCC, coming to talk about listening to children on Childline, where they are obviously always trying to assess risk of a child doing themselves harm when they have been so desperate as to speak to Childline. So she's coming to talk about that. Phil will talk about a risk assessment tool, and Phil is over there for people who have not met him. I'm sure most people have. He's our service development manager, and he'll be going through the risk assessment tool. And at the end of the day, we've got the Member of Parliament photographic competition presentation, and Richard Daniels will be doing that. I'm not going to say a huge amount because I think Hazel's probably got most things covered. But one of the things I'd like to do is ask you to welcome our Japanese visitor, who's Kyoko. Would you stand up, Kyoko? And Kyoko's... some of you will have met Kyoko because they are wanting to introduce contact centres into Japan. So Kyoko's been here several times to visit contact centres and look at various facilities and resources that we have in this country to see how they can start to think about implementing them in Japan. And I shall be going over there next week to talk to them about NACC and contact centres and the work that you do. One of the things that has happened in the last year is the amount of media attention that contact centres, NACC and contact centres have got. And that has been a deliberate act to try and raise awareness, because I don't know if any of you have read on the website the work that Ruth has been doing on trends. One of the things that we've noticed is that 2010, 2011, 69% of the referrals were from solicitors. That has now reduced to something like 22%. So we can see that an awful lot now of our referrals are self-referrals and not coming through courts. And quite a lot of that is because of LAPSO, as we know, the legal aid reduction. So one of the things that I think is important is that we continue to raise awareness, and we've done that through, in the last few weeks, we've had 8 publications. We've had articles in 8 publications. I've visited MPs and asked them to visit your centres. So we're getting the message out through them. I've also been doing judicial training last Friday, where I was talking about the judicial protocol, but also it's important that they understand what the differences are in terms of contact centres, the different types, and that they make orders that are sensible. One of the things that the judges said to me was, please invite them to visit your centres. They would really love to go. So I would say to your local court, write to them and invite them to come and see your centre. They would love that. One of the things that I know has hit some centres this year has been the change in the funding arrangements from CAFCAS. I hope that we actually did get that sorted out and that nobody was left without funding. But it did highlight that we can't always rely on CAFCAS funding. They say that constantly, so I would say that in terms of sustainability, you probably need to give some thought as well. Hopefully that funding won't dry up because the MOJ are very committed to contact centres, but I think it's important to try and look elsewhere for some money, if not for anything else, is to support your centre and be able to continue with it. The other issue that has been really difficult for centres has been recruitment, and that's been recruitment of coordinators and recruitment of volunteers. I would suggest that you go to somewhere like REACH, or there are lots of other organisations in the country that actually deal with volunteers, and I would say please don't let a centre close for want of a coordinator, because one of the things that has happened in this last few months is that a centre in somewhere like Cumbria, which was extremely difficult, one was closing. One of the coordinators decided that they would do more than one centre and has actually now not only taken on one but 2 centres. So it's possible to have sort of like an area coordinator who has a contribution from each of those centres to be able to do the work. And it's not a surprise to you that I think all coordinators should be paid. And because it is a hard job, it's a tough job, and it's one that requires a lot of commitment, and I think they should get paid for their work. One of the things that also we've done this year is to have our training accredited by the Open College Network, which I think is a big boost for us. It means that the quality and the standard of our training is confirmed. They've also accredited our accreditation system, so they've also acknowledged that that is of a very high standard. And the only other thing that I can tell you about really, apart from the judicial training, which I'm doing lots of now and hopefully get the message about contact centres and how they should be properly used, I'm part of the child arrangement review that is being run by the Nuffield Foundation to be able to look at how they start to take family proceedings forward. Okay, now we get to really what I think is pretty interesting stuff now. I'm going to ask Marie and Kevin from the Child Exploitation Unit to come up and do their presentation.